broadcast for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. This is the Firearms Radio Network. The bandwidth for this edition of Gun Guy Radio is supplied by LA Police Gear, lapolicegear.com.
Welcome to episode 105 of Gun Guy Radio. This is a podcast that shines a positive light on the firearms lifestyle. I'm your host, Chick Challand, and this is your weekly dose of positive firearms talk without the politics. And with us this week is special co-host Mike Eisland, hunter safety and 4-H shooting instructor, and gun enthusiast, and all-around gun guy. Hey, Mike.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going all right. If I can read the intro, I've only done 105 times. So you're kind of a neighbor of mine. You're Wisconsin?
Yep, just north of you.
Just a little ways north. Talking about doing a reloading episode here for a little while.
Yeah.
So before we get to that, I have a few announcements. We were doing a Bond Arms giveaway here on Gun Guy Radio. And we're giving away a Bond Arms Derringer and 45 ACP. And it's called the Bond Arms Backup. And you can enter this by writing your very own review for the Firearms Insider by going to firearmsinsider.tv/submit. For every review you write, you get an entry. So we'll be announcing the winner May the 4th. All reviews must be submitted by April 30th. And we'll be giving away 4 runner-up prizes as well. If you can't tell, I'm still dealing with my cold a little bit. So pardon any pauses for me hitting the cough button. But we're still putting up some videos surrounding SHOT Show. If you check out the Firearms Radio Network YouTube page, youtube.com/Firearms Radio, we're still putting up a few of the SHOT Show videos. Some really good ones have gone up recently, so if you haven't checked it for a while, check back. Reed, for example, does a FNH booth interview on their new mil-spec AR-15. And there's some other really good stuff on there as well. A bunch of interviews that Nikki Trapeau conducted at the Exus site booths. A lot of bigger names in the industry. You can check those out. It's youtube.com/Firearms Radio. Let's see here. Last week I mentioned that new shows were joining the network, and they still are. It takes a little bit of time for me to get everything rolling, but the Power Factor show is coming to the Firearms Radio Network, and also Practically Tactical is also on its way over. Brownells helps make this episode of Gun Guy Radio possible. Selection, service, satisfaction. Find it all at Brownells. Go to gunguyradio.com/satisfaction. Wanted to talk a little bit about reloading. So is this going to be kind of a reloading primer, would you say, for new guys?
Yeah, I would definitely say just kind of an introduction and cover the basics for people who haven't gotten into it or maybe just are doing one thing.
Sure. This is actually a show I've been wanting to add to the network as a standalone show, because reloading, you could talk about it forever and ever and ever. And actually, if you're into rifle reloading, you could check out the Precision Rifle podcast. They've been talking a lot about reloading, and rifle gets a little bit more involved. But
yeah, it does.
I guess we start off with the why.
Well, main reasons to reload for the basic is cost savings. Now, cost savings is kind of a misnomer. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to actually save money reloading, but what it does mean is you're going to be able to shoot more ammunition for less than you would if you're just buying it off the shelf. When I first got into it, I thought, oh, okay, I'm going to be able to save money in doing this. No. you just take the money that you save on not buying the factory ammo, you buy more reloading components, and you shoot more often. So really beneficial, especially if you do a lot of shooting. And frankly, getting around to reloading, especially if you get a couple of buddies together, it's fun. You can spend an afternoon reloading a couple hundred rounds, and you just sit around like you'd be talking or something, but you're actually doing something practical at the same time.
Yeah, there's a lot of great applications. A lot of guys, once they get shooting IDPA or USPSA, they'll start getting into reloading as well, because you can get into the whole making your own load, making a little softer loads than what you can buy, so you can get that little extra edge for competition.
Yeah, the fact that you can vary how hot or how calm the load is huge, especially if you're going to be doing practicing. You can, as everybody who shoots a bit knows, whether it's competition or hunting, when you actually use that firearm at that particular point, the adrenaline's kicked in, you don't feel the kick. But if you're going to be shooting, especially IDPA, USPSA, 3-gun, something like that, you're going to be putting thousands and thousands of rounds downrange, and if you can lighten that felt recoil, even just a little bit on every round, it's huge savings to the toll it takes on your body. It helps with accuracy issues.
Another place is maybe unique rifle rounds. Some of the more boutique rifle rounds might be a good place a good reason to reload. That might be a place where you actually would save money, because some of those boutique rifle rounds can cost an arm and a leg from the factory.
Yeah, especially anything that says Weatherby at the end of it.
Yeah.
A friend of mine has a 257 Weatherby, and he was buying Weatherby ammo, which was $55 a box of 20.
Wow.
We started reloading for him, and it went from, $55 for a box of 20 down to about $13.
Wow.
For a box of 20. But, when you buy, he had all the brass. That's probably the single biggest expense in reloading is brass. So
right. Yeah, especially if you have to buy it.
Yeah.
I mean, the best case is if you can shoot up some of the factory stuff you have and use that brass, or if you can find some on the range. But sometimes you can't, and you have to buy it. But once you invest in it, you can cycle through it a few reloading cycles and get some life out of it.
Unless you're shooting that hot rifle that Jeremy over at We Like Shooting's got. I think he gets about 3 reloads out of those brass.
Yeah, no one does that except him. So, you put in the question here: is it legal where I live? Is there any place where reloading is illegal?
I did a bunch of research, and as most everybody knows, check your local laws to make sure. California is working towards trying to restrict. Washington, D.C., I believe, has restrictions on it. But as of current, in the 50 states, there is no law stating you cannot reload. Massachusetts, there's some issues with shipping from online stuff, but there's plenty of local suppliers in Massachusetts you can get the equipment and everything from, so it's not really an issue. But like I said, I did not find anything on the books stating you can't, other than D.C., but D.C. is a whole separate issue.
Right, and as far as I'm aware, even our Canadian brothers to the north can reload most anything, and they have very few, if really any, restrictions on it, where I'm curious what it's like in other countries, in a few of the other gun-friendly countries like the Philippines or Britain or some of the South American countries, what their stance on reloading is. So how do we get started, Mike?
Well, I guess the first thing, pardon the dogs, my kids are just getting home. I guess the first thing you need to consider is, what are you going to reload for? Are you just, a hunter and you just want to get a little better accuracy out of your rifle? Or are you a competition shooter that type of thing. That's going to kind of determine what you're looking at for the different equipment that you're going to be getting into. Also, how many calibers? Are you going to start with one caliber? Is it just your deer rifle? Is it a 3-gun competition where you're going to be looking at multiple calibers? Is it pistol competitions where you're looking at multiple calibers? That's kind of the big things, is deciding what you're going to do for the different requirements for what you're shooting.
So, yeah, deciding what caliber you want to start with, because, most of us shoot many different calibers, so that might be a good starting point. I don't know, would you suggest maybe going with, for most people, going with something like 9 or 223, something that's fairly common?
Yeah. A lot of people definitely have probably the two most common are 9 and 223, followed up by 308 and the 308 variants. But definitely a lot of companies have tailored packages for, especially like on your multi-stage presses, for specific dies where you can get, all packaged up ready to go for a 9 or 223 or 40 or 45.
Right. So, yeah, we'll get into some of the different equipment, and there's some ready to go kits that you can buy to start with. I guess one of the first things I think I'd suggest doing before you buy anything is to get yourself a reloading guide or two, a reloading handbook, and just start looking at what the different loads look like in there, and they'll kind of cover the process as well in some of these. I've got links to 2 of the different reloading recipe books, Lyman, the 49th edition, and the Hornaday 9th edition. And then there's a little book called The ABCs of Reloading, which will take you from novice to expert, and that will probably give you a lot better idea than any podcast will give you, because it'll lay some of the things out visually for you. And that will, I don't know, at least for me, I pored over those books before I even ever got started.
Yeah, actually how I got started is I finally saved up and bought my first actual really nice deer rifle, and decided that when I was going to do that, I was going to hand load. So I kind of did some research and talked to a few people that I knew that were loading. And what I did is I bought a Lee anniversary kit. I know a lot of people knock Lee. Their multi-stage presses, some people have issues with, some don't. But their anniversary kit's a fabulous entry-level reloading kit to get into. It gives you basically most everything you need to start reloading. And the guide that comes with it, the recipe book that comes with it, is really helpful also. That's actually how I got into it. But I've gotten a few of my friends into it now by them coming over when I'm reloading. And honestly, that's probably, if you know somebody who's reloading, that's probably the best way to get into it, is to go sit with them and learn from them. And that way you're getting the hands-on experience.
You're probably right. I didn't know a single person locally that reload when I got into it. Me and a buddy got into it at the same time. And so we were both just newbies at it. That Lee, 50th anniversary reloading kit, it's only about $130, and it gives you, quite a few of the things you need to get started.
Yeah, the only thing I recommend, the only thing you really need to upgrade out of that kit would be the powder scale. The powder scale that comes with it, it's a pendulum style. If you can learn how to use it, it's very accurate. But it's very temperamental, and it's a royal pain in the butt to try to learn how to use, because of the way they've got the tenth of a settings.
It is a little bit confusing at first. That was the scale I used for a little while, and then I upgraded to the MTM Case Guard digital scale, which is a budget digital scale. I think it's $30 range or somewhere.
Yeah.
And they can be temperamental and finicky as well. So, what I didn't realize was that Amazon.com sells a lot of Lee stuff. They actually stock it and sell them themselves, shipped and sold from Amazon. So
Amazon is actually a fabulous place to get a lot of firearm stuff. They don't actually sell firearms. I don't believe they sell ammunition either. But as far as everything else, reloading stuff, accessories, I mean, the amount of stuff they've got on there is amazing.
Yeah, I think back when I got into it, they didn't have too much. But yeah, you're right. They have like everything now. That's pretty awesome. So where do we go from here? We have the resources. We kind of have an idea on the loads. And well, I guess that's the next thing we were going to talk about is where do we get the equipment? So I included a few notes, links here in the show notes, like Sinclair International, which is part of Brownells now. They have anything and everything you could ever be looking for reloading.
Yeah, they're an awesome. That's actually where I got my multi-stage press. That's where I've gotten a couple of dies. That's where I bought quite a bit of bullets for. Great resource. And then you've got Natchez Shooter Supply, which is another great place. Midway US.
Yeah, I think Natchez, however you say it, Shooter Supplies. Yeah. I think that was one of the places that I got most of my stuff at because they tend to have bargain basement prices on most everything, powder, components. I think I've bought a lot of powder from them in the past.
Yeah, they're definitely. If you're on a budget, it's a good place to check. But definitely the one thing I learned real early on is if you have internet access, spend the time to check around. Because just because you find it one place cheap doesn't mean you're not going to find it somewhere else cheaper. And cheap doesn't necessarily always mean bad either. Midway's another great source, Mid-South Shooter Supply. And another one I threw on there was Titan. Titan is actually out of Hartford in Wisconsin here, and they get first crack at all of the Lee stuff. When Lee's on back order, when any of the Lee stuff's been on back order, which it's a lot better than it was, but they are the local distributor for Lee. They're actually about 1.5 miles from Lee's plant, and so they get first crack at any of the Lee stuff before it goes anywhere else. So it's always a good place to check. They ship anywhere in the country. Really great people, great knowledgeable people. And that's just 5 places. Obviously, your big sporting goods stores, Cabela's, Gander, Bass.
And those are great for when you're like, oh, crap, I wanted to reload this weekend, and I don't have the powder. And you can just run by the powder or run by a component or something.
Yeah. And, I've got a Gander that's a couple miles from me, and they're starting to get a lot better in stock with powder and stuff. It's still, I think powder and primers are the 2 biggest problems to find still. It's like trying to find .22 ammo, but only certain styles of powder. So maybe if your powder that you want isn't available, if you get on, you start checking around, especially the reloading guides, they'll list a few different powders. So maybe, for this time you can't get that particular powder you want, but there are substitutes that will perform similarly. And especially if you're just doing it for practice ammo, it's not going to make as much of a difference. Now, obviously, if you're a bench shooter or you're a precision reloader, then you want to stick with that powder. But, if you're just doing it for practice, use the reloading guides, use the recipe books, and you can find a few different powders. I went through, most everybody I know has probably 5 or 6 different pound powder containers sitting around that they tried at one time and maybe didn't work the way they wanted to. So, check with your buddies. Maybe they've got the powder that you're looking for laying on their shelf because they don't like it.
Right. And that's one reason to have multiple reloading manuals, handbooks, because, they are a recipe book. They list recipes for different powders and projectile combinations. However, they don't list them all, and the different books will list different combinations or different powders. And you can buy, I think it's at like Cabela's or Gander Mountain, you can buy like it's like a black and white little books. Do you know what those are called? They're like, you can buy them for 9mm or 45, so it's just for one caliber, but it looks like a little pamphlet that someone shot off
like
on their photocopier, but
the plastic binder, the plastic binding ones.
Yeah,
I don't remember what the name
those
is.
too. Yeah, so you can buy they're ammo specific. So generally they will list a lot, especially if you're looking for projectiles. They'll list a lot of different projectile options. So that might be helpful as well for looking up what kind of powders to use. I guess that's let's see here. So we went through equipment, or where you get equipment and stuff. So let's say, I don't know, I guess you pick out your press, and then what?
Well, once you got your press, basic components, the very least you need to reload is a press of some sort. When you get into it and you get more, there is the prep tools and the tumblers, that type of thing. But just your basic, you're just getting into it just to find out if it's something you want to do. You just get a basic press, and you decide what you want to do for powder. A lot of the manufacturers, the bullet manufacturers like Sierra, Nosler, Hornady, actually have their own recipe guides too. So and I know for Sierra and for Hornady, you can actually access those from their webpage for free, or you used to. I haven't checked in the last 6 months or so, honestly, but those are nice. Otherwise, usually, if you just need quick information, usually most of your mass merchandisers have one of those guides sitting open, especially the Sierras, so you can just take a look quick. You have to decide how serious you want to get. Reloading is a hobby where you can, get into it for under $100, or you can get into it for a few thousand. If you're the basic bottom of the line is just the simple Lee load all. It's, I think, $25, and it allows you to load one cartridge at a time, and it's great for rifle, not so much for pistol. But then you're looking at, your basic, like your 50th anniversary Challenger kit, your Rock Crusher, Hornady's Lock and Load, I think, is their entry level. Get your press, get your dies. A good thing to get is a case cleaner of some sort, whether you want to get a tumbler or if you just want to do it the old-fashioned way with a bottle brush. But you want to clean up those cases. One of the things that's absolutely necessary is a primer pocket cleaning tool. Usually they're about $5 to $10. Pretty much everybody makes one. I personally have the Lee just because that's what the brand I use. And another thing that's key is a case measurer. If every time you shoot the brass, not only does it expand out, but it expands forward into the chamber. So if you don't, usually it's not until about the third time you've reloaded that you actually have to trim the cases, but you want to make sure you're not getting those cases too long. Otherwise, you're going to cause feeding problems, not only with your magazines, but also into the chamber where now you're creating headspace issues because that case isn't seating like it should.
Right. What are those called? Micrometer or?
Well, you can use a micrometer. The basic one the ones that I've seen that are kind of nice and basic is there's one that you just actually insert. Lee makes one. I think RCBS has got one too. Basically, it takes the standard length for that brass, for that cartridge, and you just slide it in. It sits into the primer pocket, and then it sticks out, and it shows you how long the case should be versus how long the case is.
Really? I haven't seen those. Cool.
Yeah, I'll see if I can look it up and put it in the show notes.
They're a digital caliper is what I was thinking. And on Amazon, it looks like you can get them for like $12, $12 up to, I think mine was $22. All the major brands. Yeah,
O'Reilly Auto Parts I got one from there because I was in there one day getting some other stuff, and they've got one that's like $16, and it's very accurate and very easy and handy to use. Now, some of our listeners may actually have the old dial style, which, if you do, they work just great. And actually, honestly, they're probably a little more accurate and a little more reliable than the digital ones, at least the entry-level digital ones.
Yeah, like I guess I like to give a little warning, or I don't know, heads up here, that with like the digital scales and the calipers, you're going to want to make sure that you reset them, fairly often, just to make sure they're back to zero. That's something, I don't know, maybe I'm a little OCD, but that's something I'm always doing with my digital scale. Before I start every time, I make sure it's zeroed out, make sure it's reading correctly, and then I get going. Because it's something with these Chinese electronic, because all of this stuff is made in China.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, maybe I'm a little paranoid.
No, I would say definitely not. You definitely want to... reloading is one of those things where you really need to pay attention to what you're doing.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going to be looking at the very minimum, some issues. At the worst, possibly death. If you reload wrong, you can definitely cause some serious injuries. So it's not something to take lightly. It's definitely something you want to make sure you mind all your P's and Q's and pay attention. So no screwing around, no drinking, anything like that when you're doing it. It's serious business. It's very... I've reloaded a few thousand rifle rounds, and I do it on a single stage press. But I've still come up where I've double charged a case once. It's just a matter of, somebody asked me a question while I was doing it. I turned away for a second and forgot to move the funnel. It happens a lot, but it's the point of double checking. If you take your time and you're double checking every step, you're going to catch stuff like that. Right.
It's probably the one hobby that's a little bit good to be a little bit OCD, to double check, triple check everything. I know I don't know if I said this at the beginning, but I've only really done pistol calibers, but with those I always look in the reloading trays at the powder levels before I see any projectiles. I just make sure everything looks consistent across the board. I go cartridge by cartridge up and down, just making sure that there's not an empty one and making sure that there's not one with too much.
Definitely. The keys to reloading is clean area, excellent lighting. You really can't have it too bright because you want to be able to see inside those cases to make sure. And even on the multi-stage presses, you got to pay attention, because you may not pull that lever down all the way, and it may not cycle like it's supposed to, and you can double charge a cartridge on a multi-stage press real easy.
Okay. So now that we're stressed taking your time, back to equipment. So, a press, some way to measure the powder or weigh the powder.
Yeah. Definitely. If you're gonna be reloading any sort of quantity of ammo, get a digital scale. There is, most of your kits, your basic kits come with some sort of pendulum scale or a basic scale, but they're usually ungainly and just generally a pain in the butt to use. Lee has their powder dippers, which are nice, but the problem is you have to be consistent on how you're filling them in order to get a semi-consistent load. Now, if you're reloading for practice, it probably doesn't matter, but if you're doing any sort of precision, and you can do, you hear some stories, like I was listening to We Like Shooting the other day, and Jeremy was talking about his process when he's reloading for his rifle. And, he's weighing bullets, he's weighing brass, he's measuring every case, he's trimming exact. Yes, if you're that serious, you can do all that. But if you just want to, say you want to just get sub-MOA with your rifle at 100 yards, you don't necessarily have to get that serious. You don't have to, people like that, they're looking at not only sub-MOA, but they're looking at, being able to put the bullet in the same hole every time. If you're doing precision bench shooting, then yes, you're going to want to take all the effort to weigh all your bullets, weigh all your brass, and separate them all out and everything like that. Don't weigh your brass when it's dirty. Make sure you've cleaned it first. Like I was saying, primer pocket cleaner is a huge thing. Once you get the primer out, you want to be able to clean the residue out of that primer pocket. And then, if you just get a bottle brush and some soapy water, you can clean the brass. If you have the funds and you want to get into it, you can get tumblers. Tumbler media, the common is corn cob and walnut. The one that's really come out now is the stainless steel media. Corn cob's kind of the basic. It's just going to clean it up. It's not going to make it look real shiny and brand new. Walnut media looks a little better, but I've seen some of that stuff after it goes through the stainless, and it's fabulous. I mean, it looks like showroom brand new. You just pulled that off the assembly line brass. It's just amazing.
Right. And corn cob or walnut tumbler, you can get into one of those for, I think I saw one for like $35 on Amazon, and then the media might be $10 or so for some media. But yeah, I've seen some of that stainless steel tumbling, just looks incredible. But your tumblers for that, I think, start out in like the 150 range. Yeah.
Now, one of the shows I was listening to, they were talking about using rock tumblers as opposed to the actual stainless tumbler. So you're going to save some money there, but the media is what's expensive there, and then the chemicals to go with the media.
Sure. Yeah. And what kind of tumbler do you use, Mike?
I have a Hornaday, and I use corncob media.
Okay. I have a Lyman. It's called the Pro Sifter, where it has a built-in sift on top of the tumbler, bin. So I can, after it's done, I can kind of just take the bin off the tumbler, and it's got a built-in sieve, basically, that I can sieve all that media out of. And that was like $55. And then I bought a giant box of walnut media that's going to last me my entire life for like $20. So it's because
walnut's definitely better to go with than the corn cob. It does a heck of a lot better job. I wish I'd have gone with walnut, but at the time, I didn't actually pay for the tumbler or the media. That was a friend of mine. That was his way of thanking me for reloading his 257 Weatherby. So
another little handy tool would be reloading trays to set all your cases in right side up. They're not, very pricey. I guess you could save the little plastic bins from your ammo, your factory ammo, and use those.
Right.
But these universal reloading trays, MTM is what I use, and they're like $6-7 per tray, and they can accommodate a lot of different calibers, so they're really handy to keep. Again, to what you said, Mike, about keeping everything neat and clean. This helps you keep everything organized, and it's easy to set these up and out of the way if for some reason you can't finish, which I don't recommend. I recommend finishing.
Absolutely.
What you're doing, but if for some reason you have to leave it, these little reloading trays are a good option. I guess I suggest if you ever have to leave partway through, like you only have part of your cases filled with powder or something, I would suggest writing a note and maybe putting a little flag where you left off so that you're not unsure when you get back as to what's going on.
Yeah, I've had to walk away, briefly for just a minute. Something's going on in the house. I actually got my reloading bench out in my garage. Thankfully, we live in a duplex, so it's actually somewhat insulated, so it's not like outside temperature in there. But I've had to walk away a couple times and basically just leave I've got a funnel that I use and just leave that on the cartridge. But if I know the couple times I've had to walk away when I was going to be a while, I took a couple seconds and just dumped the powder out of the cases, so that way that wasn't an issue.
Sure. Yeah, better safe than sorry.
Yeah.
So we covered scales. Let's see here. What else?
Dies.
Dies. So some of these reloading, kits will come with dies for one caliber. Like you might get a kit that comes with 9mm dies, but you may have to buy them if it doesn't come with dies. And Lee's probably another good place to start for dies because you can get the Lee carbide dies for very very affordable for $30 to $35 for a set of dies.
I've used the Lee dies. I've used the RCBS dies. My personal opinion, the Lee dies are a lot better built than the RCBS. Plus, the RCBS generally come as a 2-pack. Lees usually are a 3 or a 4, depending on what you're doing. The fourth die being a crimp die. Usually, you've got your primer decapper die. Excuse me, and then a case sizer, and then your powder, your bullet seeder. Now, some of the dies are actually the bullet seeder is actually also set up as a powder filler, or some of them they use the case sizer. A huge thing that you absolutely need is case lube. It's not an option.
Really, even with carbide dies?
Yes.
Well, I guess with rifle, see, I've only done pistol, and I rarely ever have to use case lube on pistol dies.
On rifle, yes. I have the lead carbide dies on my 308, and yeah, I thought, okay, it doesn't need die lube, or it doesn't need reloading lube, and so yeah, I spent 20 minutes cutting a piece of brass off of the die because it got stuck.
Yeah, that's.
So,
I think the only time I had to, so I've really only reloaded 9 and 40, but I did reload some 30 carbine, which are really long straight wall cases.
Yeah. And
I think I had to use it for that just because there's so much surface area making contact to the die. And we mentioned the word carbide dies, and those are made out of, what is it, carbide steel? Is it?
Yeah.
Is that what we call them?
It's just a steel alloy, yeah.
So it kind of has properties of a natural lubricant, so they're better than just regular steel dies. But yeah, like Mike, like you're saying, for rifle, you're going to need some kind of lube. All the companies make it. What kind do you use?
I've actually tried a couple different styles. There's this. I have an aerosol one that I think was from Hornady that worked reasonably good. There's the Lee's got a like in a toothpaste tube that you squeeze out. The aerosol is convenient, but the problem with that is it's easy to overcoat. Any of them, it's kind of easy to over. But personally, I do like the aerosol. It's a lot quicker because you can just set them up in your reloading block, and you can just come along and just really quick. The other options is there is I don't remember who it is. I want to say it's our CBS has a liquid, and then there's a little application pad or application brush that you use.
Yeah, it looks like it's our CBS.
That one I've used over at a friend's house. I liked that one. I'm probably going to be picking that up as soon as I run out of my aerosol spray.
No, I think
neater.
I think it was the precision rifle guys that were talking about. I don't remember if it was Hornady or Dillon or one company makes an aerosol spray that's also, I think they said it's alcohol based, so it dries really fast, so it's not as messy.
I think that's the Hornady. That's the one I think I have. I'm not sure.
Is it the Hornady one shot? Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But the problem with that, even with the way it dries, the drawback to aerosols, it's easy to overlube. And then you're gonna have even if it's dry, it still causes bullet seating issues because you don't necessarily get it coated evenly. That's why I'm going to go back to just the brush liquid. That way it's going to be a little more, at least in my 308. But my 308, I'm trying for a little more accuracy. So with the 223, I'm not going to bother. I'll probably stick with the aerosol on that because it's not as vital. That's just being reloaded for shooting. It's not being reloaded for, I'm not going to be doing any, target shooting or anything with that. So Next up would be getting your primers in. Lee makes a really nice primer tool. From pretty much everybody I've talked to, priming on the multi-stage presses is a pain in the butt unless you've got the Dillon, because the Dillon is a Cadillac of reloading. But once you take a look at the price for Dillons, you'll understand why. Lee makes what they call an auto prime. Basically, it's a just a little hand squeeze tool that it works for pretty much any cartridge. There's a shell holder that you need to get. Shell holders you'll understand once you get into reloading. No matter what the press or whatever you're using, there is shell holders that are required, and that's what the shell actually sits in so it stays stable while you're using it. The Lee Auto Prime, actually I think it's the Auto Prime 2 now, is the version that's out.
Or XR, I think.
Oh, that's right. They came out with the XR now. I've got the Auto Prime 2. It's pretty much a KISS theory operation. You can pour the primers in. It's got a big, about 4-inch disc. You tip your 100-count primer tray upside down, put the cover back on, and then you can shake it. And as the primers are sliding across, if they're upside down, it flips them over. It's a really nice, easy, so you don't have to sit there and, hand by hand with tweezers flipping primers.
I'm OCD enough. I still do that. I use the Lee Auto Prime. I don't think I have the XR, but that's how I prime as well. And it's really quick, actually. I mean, it's way quicker than I could ever do it on the press.
On the press.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is you get consistent primer seating. You can actually control how deep or how shallow you do the primer by how hard you squeeze. And you can actually physically watch how far the primer is actually going in, too. It's just a wonderful tool. No matter what press you're using, I highly recommend it. I haven't seen anything else out there that works even close to as well.
Doesn't RCBS or someone else makes a hand primer? Yeah, RCBS makes a universal hand priming tool, but theirs is a lot more. Lee's is about $20, and RCBS is about $75.
And from what I haven't personally used the RCBS, but from what I've heard from different people, the RCBS doesn't work even nearly as well as the Lee. So, but that's one of those things, if you get the chance to test it out for yourself, because everybody has their own opinions in reloading. There are people out there, not very many, but there are people out there that think Dillon is not worth it. There's people that, you just like everything else, it's the old Ford Chevy argument. You get everybody that's got their brand loyalty, and so a lot of it you can check out yourself. Obviously we're just covering metallic cartridge reloading today. Shot shell reloading is a whole different issue, and that's probably could be its own show. Once you've got your priming done, then it's on to filling the powder. What I do when I'm doing my 308 is I've got my case prep or my case prep area, and then I've got the case holders. I've got a nice wood one that holds 50 cartridges. I'll just go ahead and put all the cartridges in there, making sure the primers are seated right as I'm going across. I always double check the primers because even though I'm watching while I'm doing it, it's still easy to not squeeze hard enough or squeeze too hard. And basically you want, for most of your applications, you want to have the primer flush with the case when you're doing that. If you put it in too far, then it changes the headspace and you're going to get soft hits on your primer. If you put it out too far, then you run the chance of it accidentally firing when you close the bolt. After you get your powder charge in, then you're looking at seating the bullet. For your average everyday shooting, basically you just kind of find out what's going to work for the magazine and for the particular firearm you're using, and then you seat that to that depth. Most of your seating dies have some sort of a crimp with them. For target practice, it's probably good enough. Now with my 308, because I am looking a little more precision, I actually have a factory crimp die from Lee. I believe a couple of the other companies make them too. Lee's usually the easiest and cheapest to get a hold of. And one thing you'll learn with reloading is pretty much everybody's dies fit in everybody else's presses. So you don't necessarily, just because you buy a Hornady or you buy a Rock Crusher, or you buy, a Lee, you're not stuck with that particular die forever. You can get different company dies because not everybody makes all the same dies. Basically, the advantage of using that factory crimp die is you're going to get a consistent powder burn and a consistent bullet release at all times. When you don't crimp, you may get some bullets that are going to start to leave the cartridge upon ignition, some of them that aren't. When you do that crimp and you do that crimp consistently, you're going to continue to make sure that that bullet is leaving that cartridge case at the same time every time. One of the other things you can do with reloading that helps with precision is you can seat that bullet so it's actually not just kind of hanging out in the chamber like most of the factory ammo does, but it's actually starting to seat against the grooves in the rifling. So it's not, so your full powder cartridge is being expended, actually forcing it through the rifling and getting it out the barrel versus sending it into space, and then sometimes it doesn't necessarily, hit the rifling exactly correctly. Kind of a hard concept to understand without actually seeing the physics on it, but if you have a bullet that is just seated in there and sitting in the chamber, not actually touching the rifling, it may, you're talking thousandths of a millimeter off, but it may not hit the rifling right, and then once it gets out and it's spinning in free air, it can tumble different. And if you're aiming for precision, just that small variant can cost you, a tenth of an inch, which in some shooting competitions means winning or losing. A couple of the other things you want to be interested in doing when you're checking on what type of setup you're going to use for crimping or not crimping is how does the firearm load? Does it have a detachable box magazine? Does it have an internal box? Is it a single shot? Kind of a little different things. One of the mistakes I made first time I got serious about making the 308 rounds is I actually went through the process of seating it so it was touching the rifling. But the problem was I actually had it set into the rifle a little too far, and it wouldn't fit into the magazine for the firearm. So I had to back that off a bit. Nice thing is I hadn't crimped it yet, so that kind of made it a little easier, which brings up another thing. I screwed up. I didn't put any powder in this cartridge, or, the bullet's down too far, or the bullet's not far enough. What do I do? Most companies make two styles of, shall we say, bullet pullers, which really is kind of a misnomer. You're not actually pulling the bullet for the most part. Most of the time you're beating the bullet out of the case. There's the hammer style, and then if you really screwed up, there is actually a die style. The hammer style, most of the time you'll get the bullet out without ruining anything. If you're just doing for practice, you can kind of throw the bullet back in, reseat it properly, and away you go. If you're shooting for more target, then I would recommend just taking that bullet and tossing it. If the bullet puller won't work, then you're looking at the die style. I think most of them are about $15 to $25 range. There might be some that are a little more than that. The one I have, I want to say, was $22 for it, but it goes into your press, and you put your cartridge in like you would if you were going to, seat the bullet, but it does the exact opposite. It actually pulls the bullet out of the cartridge case. Yeah,
I had I not realized that style existed. It looks like they're about $24 on Amazon. You can get an RCBS press style, and then the inertia type, which looked like a plastic hammer type of deal. They run $18-20. So yeah. I've had to use it a couple times, and it's it's not annoying. Always easy. Yeah.
No, the first time I had to.
Oh, go ahead.
The first time I had to use it, I spent about 5 minutes. At first, I was tapping lightly, and then I started hitting it a little harder, and finally I was wailing on it, and it took about 5 minutes before I finally got that bullet and case to separate. And the problem with those is you're hitting it hard, so powder goes all over the place. So make sure you're doing this somewhere where you can easily clean the powder up and contain the powder.
Well, I have a dedicated vacuum cleaner next to my reloading area, so.
Yeah, I got my shop vac right next to also. So
did we cover all the equipment and accessories we're going to need here to start?
The only other thing you're going to want is, once you're done, where are you going to put those cases? What are you going to put the completed cartridge for storage? Common things are either saving, if you're fortunate enough where you can, like say the Winchester white box or, your other cheap factory ammo, and you get your brass that way, then you can save those cases, those boxes and stuff, and then reuse them. But you want to have, the other option is there are, MTM makes just a ton of different sizes and styles of cartridge holders. I have a few different ones, but no matter what you're going to do, the single biggest thing you need to do is label them, because you will do reloading and you will come up with a recipe, and you will take it out and you'll shoot it and you'll be like, oh, sweet, that was very accurate. And then you get back to duplicate it. Guess what? You don't know what you did. Two of the things that I have in my reloading area is I have a little notebook where I write down all the different recipes that I did. And then the other thing I have is I have a pack of labels. You can pick them up at your Walmart, Target, wherever. Just little white labels. They're a couple bucks. But every time I, put the completed cartridges away, I will write down the recipe and the date, put it on the case holder, whatever it is, whether it's the MTM or actually, regular factory boxes. That way, when I go to the range, I know exactly what it was that I did. And then you've got the label on there. If it turns out it was a really good load, I'll handwrite on there. I'll make a little note on there, good, reuse, or, if it was a lousy load, I'll write never again, or, lousy or, inaccurate or whatever. When I am making up a load for testing, some people just do 5. I always do at least 20. If you do at least 20 of a recipe, you're going to have enough of a sample that you can usually take human error out of it. You're going to have enough of that option that there's at least 10 cartridges in that case lot that you didn't screw up. Even if you're taking all your steps as just a normal reloader. Now, if you're a bench reloader, you're taking all that effort to really narrow it down, and 5's probably sufficient, because that the bullet weight's all the same across the board. That the brass is all the same. The powder is all the same, and it's all sitting exactly the same. And that's another thing. Some of your loads fill the case up, and the bullet actually packs the powder tight. A lot of your loads don't. So how the case sits makes a difference. So how you store them is a different thing. If you're looking for accuracy, then you got to make sure you store them all in the same way, and that can affect how it does. Also, temperature is a variant.
Yeah, I really like the MTM case guard ammo boxes that you can
They're
get.
so nice.
They're and what you said about labeling, they each come with an initial set of labels to slap on there and put your load recipe. And you can kind of, get them in different colors. So you could probably do, like, if you have 9, you could have all those be green cases, and then 40s you could have be red, or because they offer a few different color options for the different ammo boxes. So that's kind of cool too. Yeah,
it's definitely a handy thing to have. A couple of things I've done with my 308 is I've got a deer load, a coyote load. So the deer load is blue and the coyote load's green, because I've done different mock-ups and different testing. One of the things I did find is, as far as reloading, I didn't really like the Molly bullets. I found out that they weren't as accurate as I thought. I know there's some people that just love them, but the Molly bullets, they just don't group as well.
So they're Molly coated?
Yeah.
Bullets?
Basically, it's I think Hornady is the only one that makes them anymore, but it's their A-style bullet, which is a ballistic tip, but then it's Molly coated. So the only thing I found is it makes the barrel harder to clean, and it just kind of affects accuracy.
Now, you do rifles, so you probably use more jacketed type rounds. And me, for doing pistol, I got into it to try to reload, on a budget, to reload as many as I can for as little as possible. So I do a lot of lead bullets, lead projectiles, and they're very cheap, but it's kind of a little bit messy. So that's something else to consider, what kind of projectiles you're going to use.
And one of the things you got to, no matter what you're doing, you have to think about, especially with the actual pure lead projectiles versus the jacketed, you're going to want to have some sort of de-leading soap. Or, some people do wear, disposable gloves. It's not, it's not one of those things that, you're going to die of lead poisoning, but it's messy. And normal soap doesn't necessarily always get all the lead off, I've noticed, because I have helped a friend of mine. He had a wolf barrel for his Glock, and we went and reloaded about 5,000 rounds of 9. And, your hands just get filthy by the time you're done.
So, there's just so much to reloading. We could spend all day talking about this. Do you want to go over the process real quick? Can I give people a little bit of an overview of once you sit down what you're going to actually do?
Yeah. From start to finish, the first thing you do is, if it's previously shot brass, you're going to have to deprime it. Then you're going to clean the brass, check your case length. Then you're going to reprime it with new primers. Various processes, anywhere from doing it by hand with one of the hand primers to actually most of your companies have a actual priming die. Then from there, it's filling the powder. Whether you have the powder dippers from Lee, or you have a manual scale, or you have a digital scale, or you have one of the nice setups that auto fills. You're going to want to. The one thing I recommend, especially with the auto fills, if you're doing any sort, when you first get started, stop and check every 10 cases. Just weigh them quick and see. Sometimes some of the brands, they do get out of adjustment a little bit, and a lot of your pistol loads, especially, there's not a lot of room for error before it's over pressure. From there, you're going to be seating your bullet, and then either just the basic crimp that comes in the seating die, or the optional fourth stage of actually putting a crimp on the bullet. You do not have to have one of the bullets with, you'll see some of the bullets have what they call a cannelure. It's actually a groove that's actually cut into the bullet for crimping. You don't have to have bullets with cannelures to actually use a factory crimp die, or a rifle crimp die, or a pistol crimp die. They will crimp the cartridge to the case, or to the case to the bullet, without actually having a cannelure in it, and it won't cause any problems. From there, it's just making sure you're sorting them out, labeling them, and then off to the range for fun time.
Again, this is just a brief overview. There's can be some more steps, like if you find out your cases need to be trimmed. There's a whole slew of different trimming options and methods. So, but I think that gives us a pretty good, beginner's overview of what to expect, what to be thinking about. Check the website, gunguyradio.com/105 for all these resources we talked about. We have almost a couple dozen links in here for you guys to check out. And I don't know if you mentioned, but there are videos to help you learn this on the different websites like Lee Precision or RCBS, or YouTube is your best friend as well.
Yes, YouTube is a great resource. The other thing also is there is basically probably thousands of different reloading forums out there. Pretty much every cartridge has its own forum. There's some general forums. There's precision rifle forums. We have a precision rifle show, and they're a good source. You can send them comments and questions, and they can give you information too. But the amount of information, we probably do, a couple of months worth of shows just on rifle reloading or pistol reloading, and we didn't even cover shotgun today.
Which is good because I have no clue on how to do shotgun. I actually have a Lee shotgun reloader. I forget what they're called, but I never got around to it.
They're kind of nice. I've got actually a couple of Mech 600s that I've acquired, so those are nice too.
You just said acquired as if you may have got them used. I was going to just say, looking for some of this stuff used, don't be afraid to buy used because you can get some real bargains out there.
Yeah, you can get some real bargains. You get some people that get into it and then decide, get into it when they're single, then they get married, and then they have kids, and they just decide they don't have time for it anymore. They barely have time to get out to the range, much less anything else, and so they sell it all. Reloading equipment's not like most other things. It's very, very hard to screw up reloading equipment, other than, say, the scales. But the presses, the dies, that type of thing, it's really hard to mess it up. And if it is messed up, it's usually really easy to see. So, yeah, absolutely do not be afraid. There's a lot of, you can find them on Craigslist, you can find them at garage sales. One of the two Mech presses that I've got, I actually picked up for $25 at a garage sale, and it came with 500 holes, which are the shot shell version of the brass case. So, check your garage sales. There's also plenty of, Facebook's becoming huge for firearms and firearms-related selling. There's a lot of different Facebook pages and groups now that they're posting different things that you can get for used.
Wow, very cool. Well, thanks, Mike, for helping me out on a little bit of reloading beginner's guide, I guess we could say.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Well, I know you got to get off to work fairly soon, so I'll let you go, and
all right.
We'll possibly follow up with a little more in-depth reloading show. I guess if you guys have any questions, you can shoot me email at jake@gunguyradio.com, and hopefully I can point you in the right direction. Or if you're listening and you're possibly interested in doing your own reloading podcast, shoot me an email, and maybe that's something we could add to the network at some point. Well, very cool. Thank you, Mike, so much.
All right. Thanks, Jake.
To part of the show where we talk about LA Police Gear, lapolicgear.com. Check out their Caldwell AR-15 mag charger. This is something that I saw at SHOT Show. It's the Caldwell AR-15 magazine charger. So basically, you can take a reloading tray or a factory tray of 50 .223 rounds, 5.56 rounds, and you put it into this device, and then it's got kind of a ram, and then you put like a 30-round AR-15 magazine on this device, and it's got like a ramrod action to it where it will shove 5 rounds at a time into your AR-15 magazine. It's pretty slick. We have a video of a guy demonstrating it at the SHOT Show. And it's pretty cool. It's looks like it would really cut down your magazine loading time by quite a bit. And you can get it or you can pre-order it at LA Police Gear, or it's actually back ordered. So you can reserve yours today, and they're only $65.99. So the Caldwell AR-15 mag charger. And I was also pleasantly surprised that at LA Police Gear you can get the Alzetta flashlights. So I put a link in the show notes here for the Alzetta Bravo high output 650 lumen flashlight. And when shopping LA Police Gear, don't forget for the month of February you can get free shipping. That's right, free shipping for orders $89 and above. That's right. Check out lapolicegear.com. Get the Caldwell AR-15 mag charger or the Alzetta Bravo high output 650 lumen indestructible flashlight, and also get free shipping. Free shipping on orders over $89. Check it out today, lapolicegear.com. Well, this is a new segment of the show where I highlight a YouTube channel. And I had Ryan Machad from the Handgun Radio shoot me a couple suggestions for the YouTube channel of the week. And I believe it's called Life Size Potato is the name of the channel. Yeah. And this guy does a lot of unique handgun reviews. I watched the one on the Pardini GT9, which is an Italian competition gun. It's built for like IPSC or whatnot. Really interesting handgun. Something never seen before. And then he's got these other handguns like the Marteba 2006M, I think is how you pronounce it. It's another Italian handguns, a revolver, and I think that's the one where he said there's only 3 of them in the country, and he's got 2 of them because he imported them himself, and just really unique stuff. And then he's got antique pistols as well, like old Webleys and stuff, and just really oddball and crazy looking handguns. It's really cool stuff. So Life Size Potato on YouTube, you can check it out. Guy does just really cool videos. Really just interesting as heck. Really impressed with it. You could spend weeks on this guy's channel. Well, welcome back to the Gun Guy Radio Product Spotlights, fresh off SHOT Show 2014. With me is product category manager Paul Levy from Brownells. Hey, Paul.
Hey, Jake. How's it going? Have a good trip?
Yeah, good trip. Made it, well, came back with a SHOT Show plague. Took me out about a week, but how about you?
I escaped the plague this year.
Oh.
I was fairly healthy. Feeling good.
Thank goodness. Well, we're talking about tactical machining. That sounds like my kind of machining.
Yes, we currently carry, or have for quite some time, carried tactical machining's AR-15 lower receivers, the 308 receivers, and very nice parts and very competitive price-wise. But we recently added some parts they've been known for quite some time, and that's 80% receivers. So I don't know if you're aware of what an 80% receiver is, but it's basically 80% of the process has been done to complete this lower receiver. And then according to the ATF, since the entire receiver has not been completed, this is not considered a firearm. This is to them just a block of aluminum. This is the 308 here. So what the customer or end user has to do, if they wish, is to complete.
So it not being classified as a firearm, you can ship these directly to customers?
Correct. We can ship them out direct to customers. This is not an FFL item. This is just a regular part like anything else we carry that's not FFL. So it's basically 80% of the machining is done. So what that requires is the customer, the end user, is to complete that remaining 20% of the machining, which on these lower receivers, that's the trigger area. You'll see this is not milled out. So the customer is going to have to machine that out to whatever dimensions they see fit. Well, tactical machining helps you out with that. And then also the safety, trigger, and then hammer pin holes. those will still have to be machined. So it's not like anybody can just go out and go to town on this with a hand drill, but it does require some knowledge on how to use a end mill or something like that. But it's fairly feasible. And to assist the customer in actually completing this, Tactile Machining has these available. This is their jig. This is a 308 jig here. And what this does is encompasses the lower receiver. Here, I'll show you this side here. This goes on the receiver itself, the 80%, and basically shows you where to drill to complete it, to make sure everything's lined up correctly and can be done in alignment, so you'll actually have a functioning receiver when it's done. So here's the receiver here. The jig just installs like so. I'll try not to just smash these together. You'll see they just use the takedown pinholes for alignment, which those are aligned by Tactile Machining. Those are already pre-drilled. And then the other side will just install like so. There, it's clamped on both sides. And then it comes with several different top jigs. This will install on the top and screw in place. So then you're ready to drill your side holes, whichever you prefer to do first. You see there's bushing, so you can reuse this jig and not have the jig itself warped or messed up when you go and drill. Then also has these top plates. So these top plates, they basically line up and tell you where to mill out for the trigger group. So that one there is basically the entire area. You have to know what depth you're going to. Again, not just anybody's probably going to be able to do this. And then also this one here for the trigger area, mill that out, and then swap mesh needed. So they sell this as well, sell the 80% lowers by themselves. You buy them separately. So buy one jig, buy however many receivers you want to complete your receivers or just hang on to them. They're frankly just pretty neat. And again, Tactile Machining's already taken care of 80% of that machine work for you and done a good job of it. These are pretty good looking receivers. So you'd have to machine out what you desire, and then from there finish it with whatever coating you might desire. Probably the harder the better.
Sure. So you may find a local machine shop that may rent out the use of their
well, I don't know about how wise that would be. This is really intended for just the end user.
So it's more of a hobbyist.
Yeah, this is more of a hobbyist to make your own receiver. Again, an individual can produce their own firearm. They just can't be resold unless you have, of course, a manufacturing license. So make sure you know your local laws and regulations before you undertake this endeavor. The ATF letter stating that this is not a firearm is available from Tactile Machining, or give us a call and we can help you out with that. So those are available.
Well, very cool. And I've never seen them in 308. That's pretty cool.
I believe they're pretty much the only people I'm aware of that are actually producing a 308 80% low receiver. And this is DPMS pattern. I should have stated that earlier. So it'll accept 308 P mags. Again, the hard part right in here is the mag well. That's for an individual that's pretty tough to machine out. On these, they mill it out. But on the AR-15 lowers, they actually broach that, which is not a task that just anybody can do in their machine shop.
Okay, very cool.
So.
Yeah, it takes your AR-15 hobby to the next level.
Yeah, if you actually, instead of a build, just assembling parts, if you want to say you actually built it and actually machined it yourself, you can go that route.
Right. Next step will be mining the ore yourself. And
yeah, or you could just start with the entire block, the billet block of aluminum if you want to get adventurous.
That's a little bit easier, I guess. So, yeah. Well, very cool. Thank you so much for bringing this to the product spotlight, Paul. I'll have links in the right-hand corner of this video where you can buy these directly from Brownells. Well, that wraps up this week's product spotlight. We'll see you next week, Paul. Thank you.
All right, see you then.
In the 5 winners for the Brownells giveaway, the Brownells BVL 280 flashlight. That's right, 280 lumens and a hard aircraft aluminum lifetime warranty. The winners are Brenton Richardson, Doug Park, Sean Silva, John Olden, Alan Gimrig, Alan Gimrig, I think. So that's it. That's the 5 winners. I will be sending you guys emails, but just in case you give me a bad email or something, I hope you're listening. So congrats, 5 winners to the Brownells BVL 280 flashlights. And we'll be announcing the giveaway for next month, next episode. So stay tuned, and you can enter to win by going to gunguyradio.com/winner, gunguyradio.com/winner.
Ballroom jeans, fire hose work pants, and long tail tees are 3 favorites among the men of Gun Guy Radio. Duluth Trading Company has perfected the art of clothing the manly man. If you want manly comfort that's trusted by these gun guys, go to gunguyradio.com/Duluth and check out the other manly essentials Duluth Trading Company offers gun guys like us.
Gun Guy Radio says thank you and proudly displays artwork and graphics designed by Ryan Cross of Hunter of Design. hunterofdesign.com.
But that about wraps it up for this week, so you can send your feedback to jake@gunguyradio.com. Remember to subscribe to us on iTunes. Leave us an iTunes review, gunguyradio.com/iTunes. Don't forget to join the NRA and the Second Amendment Foundation. And also, remember, we have apps on other phones and devices such as Android and Windows phones. So search the Android Google Play Store or the Windows App Store and search for Firearms Radio to get our app there. Don't forget to check out all the other awesome shows on the Firearms Radio Network. Shows like Fat to Fit HQ podcast. If you're a somewhat fat, tubby guy like me that needs to lose a little weight, it's a great show to get some good information, maybe try some new things, maybe gain a little understanding. Carol does a great job over there, Fat to Fit HQ podcast. And I am returning for a couple episodes of Fat to Fit HQ here in the coming weeks, so stay tuned for that. And don't forget to shop Brownells using our affiliate link, gunguyradio.com/satisfaction. And we'll see you next week.
This has been a production of the Firearms Radio Network. You can find more information at firearmsradio.tv.